you can use Notepad. Just go to your start menu and then type Notepad. So you're gonna see Notepad here. So Notepad is here, you're gonna see it. So, or you can use online editor like CodePen.io. You can see CodePen.io. So from here, so you can sign up from here. So I'm gonna log in because I have account with them. So I gonna log in. And another online editor is so from here I can create new pen. So I can create new pen from here. So you are going to see it here. We have HTML, CSS and JavaScript. So this is where you can run your HTML. Why this is where you can run your CSS, and here for JavaScript. So we are going to be using this CodePen.io sometimes, but mostly we use the Visual Studio Code. So once you have Visual Studio Code installed, then we can move to the next thing. So now what I'm going to discuss with you, if you go to W3 Schools, so the HTML, we are going to discuss the HTML in this case. And what is HTML? Now if you choose start learning HTML now, you can see it from here. The HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. Hypertext Markup Language. So HTML is the standard markup language for creating web pages. So if you want to create a web page, you will need an HTML. So HTML describes the structure of a web page. HTML consists of series of elements. And what are those elements? HTML element tells the browser how to display the content. So you are still going to learn more about it. So the HTML elements label pieces of content such as this is a heading, this is a paragraph, this is a link. Now let's look at this simple example like the doc type. And in this course you are going to learn what this doc type was. Why do we use doc type? Why is it doc type? So you are going to learn what is doc type, and you are going to learn what is HTML, the head, the title. So this is the basic structure of HTML. So if you want to write a code, you want to run a code, you will need this structure. So this doc type HTML is telling the browser that we want the latest version of HTML, like because we have different versions of HTML. Now if you look at the history of HTML, so the HTML was introduced by who? So if you look at this from the HTML history, since the early days of the World Wide Web, there have been many versions of HTML. So in 1989, this was introduced by Tim Berners-Lee, which invented WWW, which is known as World Wide Web. So sometimes it refers to WWC, known as World Wide Web Consortium. So in 1991, Tim Berners-Lee invented HTML. That was in 1991. So in 1993, Dave Riot drafted HTML+. So in 1995, HTML Working Group defined HTML 2.0. That's when we have the version 2.0. And in 1997, so the W3C recommendation, it recommends HTML 3.2. So in 1999, so W3C also recommend HTML 4.01. And in year 2000, So the SHTML 1.0 was introduced. So in 2008, so we have the HTML5 first public draft. So in 2012, so we have the living standard, and in 2014, so the W3C recommends HTML5. So in 2016, so the HTML 5.1 was recommended by W3C. So in 2017, so we have the second edition of HTML 5.1. So in 2017, we have the what? HTML 5.2. Now, so we are going to start from the basic HTML to HTML5. Now let's try to learn how to run this code in our web pages. So once you have the Visual Studio Code installed, so what you gonna do is, the first thing you do is to create a folder. So getting a folder, go to new, right click, go to new folder, and then click folder. Then you can name it whatever name you want. You can say my first HTML. So when you name that HTML, then you go to the editor, and then you go to file, then you go to open file, open folder, then you select the folder. The folder is located in the desktop, so you select the name of the folder, which is my HTML. So let's search. Okay. Okay, yes. Now, once the folder is selected, then you have this page. So this is the folder name. Now, in this place, now you can create a file. So you go to file and click on new file. Then you go to file again, so you can see on title 1, so you give it a title name, and then you go to new file again, or you go to new file and you go to save as. So and you're gonna save inside the folder. You select the folder which is located in the desktop. So then you look for the folder name, so which is my first HTML, and then from here you can, so from here you can now save it. Now let's save the first one, index. And one thing you should know is, whenever you want to write an HTML document, you are going to save it with an extension .html. So I'm saving it index.html. So you save it index.html and you click OK. So you can now see that the file is saved. And if you want to run the project, you are going to start with a doc type. So you are going to write a doc type. So doc type HTML. So this is telling the browser, this doc type HTML is telling the browser that you want the current version of HTML, which is HTML5. Then the next thing that will follow it is the HTML. You can see it here. So HTML, then inside this HTML, that is where everything is defined. So from inside the HTML you have the head, so which is the head. Then inside the head tag you have the title, tag. Then after the head you have the body, So from here now we can write our first program in HTML. So let's give it, in between the title we are going to write my first HTML page, and here we are going to write hello world. Now we can save it. Press Ctrl X. Let me enlarge the screen. Now you save it. You can go here and save it. Then the next thing, you right click on this and then you go to review in Explorer. So from there you can click here and you can see it on the web browser. So it display hello world. Now let's discuss the HTML elements. Now HTML element is defined by a start tag, some content, and end tag. Now if you have HTML and you want to define a specific element, you have to start with a tag and then some content, and you give it an end tag. So you can see HTML element is defined by a start tag, some content, and an end tag. You can see the tag name. Let's say the tag name is paragraph, then you give it some content and then a closing tag. So this is what we mean by closing tag, and this is what we mean by what? This is what we mean by open tag, or you call it start tag. So if we look at this now, we have some HTML element. Like you can see, we have the paragraph tag. So you can see we have paragraph, we have h1 tag, we have paragraph, we have break tag. So let's try to make use of this h1. The h1 is known as heading. So we have h1, h2, h3, h4, h5, h6. So the first one we have is h1. Let's try to use h1 and see how it is. So if I contrast it and I go back to the browser and then I try to reload it, you can see it is bigger now. So now let's try to use h1 to h6 and let's see how it's going to be. So I'm going to Control V. So I'm gonna use h2 here. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna change it to h3. h3. Okay. So here h4 and here h5 and here h6. So let me contrast it and then if I reload it, So you can see it here. So this is the bigger heading, so small, smaller. So you can see it here. So you start from H1. H1 is the first heading, while this is second heading, third heading, fourth heading, fifth heading, sixth heading. So we also have the paragraph tag, so P. So if we write hello here and we contrast it, so we'll go back to the browser, you can see it here now. So there's a paragraph between this, so it gave it a paragraph, so that's a paragraph tag. So another tag we have is we have the break tag. You can see the break tag. And what's the purpose of this break tag? So suppose you have some content, like you have a paragraph, inside the paragraph you have some content, blah 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 blah, and then inside this you want to break those content, so you can use the break tag in between it. So Ctrl X, and then if you reload it, you can see, so you can see it here. Now let's move on. Okay, now let's do some list item. So let me get rid of all this. Okay, so I'm gonna press shift and exclamation mark, then press enter. So it's gonna give so you can see it here. So it returned the same, but don't worry about this, you know that later. So let's give it a title, list item. So now in this place I gonna use I want to list some things, so I gonna use UL as a list. This UL is known as unordered list. So we have OL, we have two type of lists. So we have ordered list and unordered list. So in this UL I'm gonna list some item, so unordered. So then inside this UL I'm going to use a tag called LI, known as list. So if I list some item like fruits, okay, let me give it a name. Inside here I'm gonna write names. I'm gonna give it an H1 tag, which you're already familiar with. So I'm gonna say names of fruits. So in this list item, the first list I gonna say mango, then I copy it, Ctrl C, Ctrl V, Ctrl V, Ctrl V, Ctrl V, Ctrl V. So I gonna change this to orange. I gonna change this to banana. So I gonna change this to grape. So that's okay. Now if I contrast it, I go to the browser and I reload it, so you can see it's giving me some list of items. Now suppose I don't want this unordered. I want the UL type. I can specify the type to start from A. If I Ctrl S it and I reload it, okay, sorry, I can specify the type. Okay, I'm coming. Let me use start is equal to no. Let me come back. Okay, I can specify the UL type to be equal to cycle, and let's see what will happen. Ctrl S, if I reload it, so you can see it's changed to cycle. So I can also change it to square. I can change it to square. Okay, Ctrl S. So if I reload it, you can see it now, it is square. So, and one thing is, if I use order list, you gonna see the difference. So if I use order list and I Ctrl S it, if I reload it, can you see now it's giving us a numeric value which is 1 2 3 4. So also in this place we can specify the type. If we choose the type small letter A, so it's going to start from small letter A, B, C, D. And also we can say start from 1. I gonna save it, Ctrl S, and go back, reload. You're gonna say 1 2 3 4 5. And if I change it to Roman figure, so like I is gonna give me this I. If I change it to capital letter I, it's gonna give me in Roman figure also. Ctrl S, and then you gonna see it. So if I use capital letter A, is if I use capital letter A, so Ctrl S and see what's going to happen. So it's going to return capital letter A, B, C, D. So if I specify and I use small letter B and I Ctrl S it, if I go back here and I reload it, so you're gonna see what happens. So it's return 1 2 3 4 5. So now, and another thing I can do is, instead of starting from 1 2 3 4 5, 1 2 3 4, and I want another list of item to start from, okay, let me Ctrl S it, Ctrl C, and I'm going to paste it here. So from here now, I want this to start from 5. So, and if I press start and I say okay, start from 5 here, and I Ctrl S it, and if I reload it here, you can see it's starting from 5 6 7 8. So this is how order list is. Now let's move to HTML tables. So HTML tables allow web developers to arrange data into rows and columns. Like you can see this table in here. So we can use HTML to do this. Now let's go to our editor and let's get rid of this. Okay, let's get rid of this content. Now, first thing, if I want to start, I'm gonna start from table. I'm gonna specify a tag called table. Then inside this table, I'm gonna specify, okay, I want this item to be on a row, so I'm going to use tr, known as a table row. So, and inside this table row, I'm gonna have a t head, known as a table head, and then I have a table data. So in this table head, I'm gonna to specify let's say subject, so in this again I'm going to have another table row, another table head. So in this, so let's set this to mathematics. And then let's set this to English. So let me create another table row and set this to, so I'm gonna to have table data known as TD. So in this, I'm gonna put 1. Okay, let me put 2. And in here, I gonna put score, which is 79. And in this, I gonna put 90. So if I Ctrl S it, and then I reload it, so I reload it, so you can see it here. So the subject 2, mathematics 79, English 90. Don't worry, when you get to CSS, you can style it, you can give it border around it like this. So another element we can discuss is the HTML images. So you can see something like this. Images can improve the design and appearance of a web page. So you can see something like this. So how can we put this image in our browser? How can we put this image in our browser? Now let's get rid of this. So now I'm going to create a tag called image. So I'm gonna have image. But one thing is, you have to put the images you are choosing, you have to put it in the same folder. It must be in the same folder. So now let's select one image. So I have one image here. So this image, I'm gonna put it inside this folder. So now I have the index.html. So I'm gonna put this image inside here. So now from here I'll go back to this place. So I'm gonna select the image. So I'm gonna to write the source, which is src, and I'm gonna select the image, which is web.jpg. So okay, this is the name. So I'm gonna give it an alt, so that whenever the browser is refreshed, the name is going to save the name of that image. I'm gonna say web, web. So Ctrl S, and then I go to the browser and then I reload it. So you can see it here now. So if you want to put an image, you must make sure that the image is in that folder, is in the same folder, is in the same folder in the location of where you save your HTML file. Another thing you can do is, suppose you are interested in one image online, so you can search images online. So if you look at different images online and you want this image, so the first thing is you right click on that image and you say copy. You go to copy image address, not link. So let's select these images. So if you select and right click and we say copy image address, then you go to you Control V and you Control S it, then see what is going to show. If you reload it, it's going to show this image. That's another way you can do it. Welcome back. Now let's try to do some standard using HTML. Now in the body we have an element called nav, and inside this nav we are going to list some elements. So what are the things we are going to list? Let's list home. I will Control C this, then I copy it, Control V, Control V, Control V. So in this I'm gonna have service, and in this I'm gonna have contact, and in this I'm gonna have sign in. Then after this I'm gonna put horizontal line. Horizontal line. So if I contrast it and I go to the browser, so you can see it here how it displays. But suppose I don't want these things here, I don't want the other type, I don't want another type. So I can choose a style called, this is called inline style, but you are still gonna know it in the when you get to CSS. So this is known as inline style. inline CSS. So I gonna say list style type, I gonna set it to none. So I gonna copy this, Ctrl C, then put it here, Ctrl V, Ctrl V, Ctrl V. So I gonna put space in between the style and the list. Okay. I gonna Ctrl S it, and then I gonna reload it. So I get rid of this. So I have this now. So I have home, service, contact, sign in. So from here now, after this, I gonna have some list item display. So I gonna use h1 tag. So then in here I gonna say items, and in this I gonna use a list tag. I gonna say item 1, Ctrl C, Ctrl V, Ctrl V, Ctrl V. So in here I gonna say item 2, I gonna list item 3, and then item 4. I gonna Ctrl S it, then I gonna reload. Suppose I have a paragraph tag, so which is P, and I have some content blah 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 blah, and I want this content to be bold. I can use a B tag, so known as B as in bold. So if I Ctrl S it and then I reload it, you can see it is bold. And also I can use another tag known as strong. Instead of paragraph, instead of bold, I'm using strong, so it will return the same value. And also I have another element called italic. So whatever you write, mouse move, so you're gonna see it's gonna display it in italic. You can see it here. So we also have another word for it known as EM, that is called emphasis. So EM, so if I reload it, it's function the same. And another HTML tag we have is the subscript and superscript. Suppose I want to write some content like H2O. So let's give it a paragraph. So I have a paragraph tag. I have a paragraph, and in between the paragraph I want to write H, then subscript 2. I gonna use sub. Known as subscript, and then I gonna write H2, and after the sub I gonna use H2O. So H2O. So if I control, okay, let me give it a capital letter. So Ctrl S it. If I go back and I reload it, so you can see it now. So it's taking it as a subscript. So, and then another thing we can do we can have a superscript. So superscript, like, okay, so let's say I want to write s square. So I gonna use superscript known as sup. So in this I gonna say 2, and then I contrast it, and I go back here, I reload it, so you can see it here. So let me increase the screen for you to see. So you can see it here now. So we have s squared h2o. So this is subscript and this is superscript. Also, we also have a delete, as in is another word for strike. Let's say you have this price, the price of an element, the price of a substance to be $200, and then maybe the new price is now $150. So you can use a delete. So if I control S this and I reload it, now look at what it displays. You can see there's a strike here. So most of those websites you see that there is a strike on it. So now this is the actual price now. So this is the price before. So now they are changing the price to $150. So this is a strike. So you strike those. We also have another word, but this is old. That method we use strike. So you can see it here. So it is not accepted again. So it functions the same. You can see it, but we use delete instead of strike. We use delete. So we use delete. Now let me introduce you to HTML video. How do we put HTML video? Now the first thing you do is write a video tag. Video tag. So there is a video tag, and inside this video you are going to put a source which is known as src. Then you make sure that you have a video inside your folder. So if you go to your screen, and I have one video here, so I gonna put it inside this folder. So when you put it inside the folder, then the next thing to do is to select the name of the folder. So I gonna select. So let's check what is the name of that folder. So what is the name of that video? I gonna rename this to a small name, so call Harvard. So Harvard. So then I go back to this place and I write Harvard. Is the name correct? So Harvard. Okay, Harvard. So D. So I gonna save it with .mp4. So then you can see it here. So I can, okay. Then if I contrast it and then I reload it, so you can see the video is going to display. So what's the problem? Because the name is not proper. So I'm going to use mp4. So Ctrl S, and then I reload it. So what's the problem? let me check the video name again. Oh, where is my HTML content? So it's not here, so I have to take it back to this place. So okay, so if I'm gonna to save it .mp4, I'm gonna say confess. So then I reload it. What's the problem? So this is the name of the video source. That's the name. Video source. This is the name. And one thing, you should make sure you select the right thing. You can see here, it's working. But one thing you note, that the image, you can say this is the right one. So you see nothing is playing here, so nothing is playing. So the reason is because we have to put what we know as controls here. So if you're gonna, don't forget, you're gonna put controls, and then if you reload it, so you can see you can now play it, but the image is too big, so I should reduce the size. So I'm gonna specify a width here. So I'm gonna say width 400. So I'm gonna say height, I'm gonna say height 300. So I contrast it, and then I reload it. So you're gonna see, no, let me reduce the size. Let me give it 250, and let me give it 200. So Ctrl S, and then reload. So welcome back. Now if you look at this, I specify the height and the width. So I specify the width to be 250 and the height to be 200, and then I give it controls. So you can see it right here now. So the video is what is playing. You can see it here. So the video is playing. So you can increase the size. So you can increase this to 500, and then you increase this to 300. So Ctrl S, and then go back to this. You can see it is more bigger. So another way to add a video is you can go to YouTube. So let me get right of this. So you can go to YouTube, so, or any site. suppose you are interested in any video, so what to do is, if you select the video, and when you select the video, then you go to share. You can see it here. Then you copy this embed, so you click copy, and then once it is copied, then you go back to your browser, you go back to your editor, and in here you are going to paste it directly like that, and you Ctrl+S it, and then you go to the browser, then you reload it. So it is loading. Wait for it to load. So don't forget, you select the video, and once the video is selected, you go to share, and then you copy the embed. You go to embed and you click copy, then it will copy. So you can see it. So the video is now playing on the web browser.
Hello, Nigeria.
So you can see in here, so the YouTube use a width of 560 and height of 315, and the SRC equal to the URL of the video. Welcome back. Another thing we can do is HTML form. Now let's get rid of this one. Let's get rid of this video. So you're gonna write a form. And what is this form? Now the form, if you go to W3C, you can see HTML form, and HTML form is used to collect user input. So the user input is most often sent to a server for processing. Suppose you go to a website, and then before you can access the home page, the website, so there will be something which we say register or sign up. So from there you are going to fill a form. So that's what we want to do now. So we want to learn the input, how the users will input their name. The first thing we are going to do, we are going to do something like this, writing the first name and the last name and the submit button. So this is a button. So in here we gonna take a form, and inside the form we're gonna have a label. We're gonna have a label, and inside this we label this as first name, and inside this label we are going to say for equal to our first name. So, and then after this label, we're gonna have an input. and we're gonna specify the type of the input. So we're gonna say we want test, we want input type to be test. We're gonna Ctrl S it, and we're gonna refresh it. You can see you can type anything inside it. So we're gonna copy this, and we're gonna copy this, we're gonna paste it here, and we're gonna change this to our last name. We're gonna change it to last name. We're gonna change this to last name, and we're gonna Ctrl S it. So, and then if we refresh it, so you can see last name. And then we're gonna have a submit button. So we're gonna say button, and we're gonna say submit. And in here we're gonna specify the type of button we want. So we want a button type, we want submit. So Ctrl S, and then if you reload it, so we're gonna have a submit here. So when you type anything here, and then here, and you click submit, you can see it. So we can also have input type, as in the input type to be number. So suppose you want the type of input to be number. So if you Ctrl S it, and then we reload it, so you can see this type of input can accept only numbers. You can see it. So that's the input type, number. So we also have input type we have checkbox. You can see it here. So if you Ctrl S it, and then you reload it, so you can see here, you can check, you can see it here, checkbox. So we also have another input type. So we also have another input type, as in radio. So we have the radio, okay, the radio, Ctrl S, and then reload it. So we have radio type. So we have checkbox, we have number, we have test. We also have input type, date. Ctrl C, and here Ctrl V. So we have date. So you can see we have date, Ctrl S. So if you reload, you can see it here, you can select the date of the month. So another input type we have input type so we have color, Ctrl S, and then if you reload it, so you can select different color. You can select different color. You can see it here. So another input type we have we have email. So Ctrl S, and then let's reload it. So this only accept email. @gmail.com. So now let's put required, and let's see. We are going to put required, and let's see if we are submitting the form. So let's take the button away from this place, and then we'll Ctrl X, and then from here we put the button in here, and we'll Ctrl S it. So, and then let's reload it. So let's try to submit something here. You can see, please fill out this form. And if you fill something and you just write ordinary name, and let's see, you can see, please include an in the email address. So until you put this gmail.com, that is when the form is going to be submitted. So another input, we have input type. We also have file. So in this will enable you to upload a file. So you can see from your computer to your web page. You can see when you choose this, so this is selected, then you can submit it. So you can submit it. You select this and open, then submit. So you have to fill the form, you see. So you can submit it. So another input type we have type. We have month. If you Ctrl S it and you reload it, so you can see it here. So you can select which month. So I select this, so you can submit it. So and then we also have another input type. Let's say image, and let's see, reload. So you can see here